syllabus, I'm going to share my screen and talk about Blackboard a little bit. So you should all have access to Blackboard. I know some of you were getting on Blackboard these past few days. The syllabus up at the top in the left-hand side, right under the Bitmoji, is 2 documents that literally are the same. They're the syllabus of the same document. One's a docx and one's a PDF. I will try to make all documents both accessible as docx and PDF. If you have a Chromebook or another some type of laptop that you can't access a Microsoft Word document easily, you're going to have the PDF there too. If you can't access any documents, just let me know and I can address that file issue as needed. But if you want to download this yourself, I'm going to have it on my screen so everybody can look at it. But if you need to print it off later, or maybe you've already done that, this is going to be here all semester, so you can kind of come back and see it. So I'm going to talk about the syllabus, talk about Blackboard. If we have any time left, I have a small in-class writing assignment. It's nothing large, but at the end, if we do have time, we'll do that. So, so the syllabus here, I've made it larger so we can kind of see it now on our screens, but it is a little bit smaller when you download it from Blackboard. The other difference I have here is I've added a picture of the textbook cover so I don't have to show it on the screen, and it looked really awkward, so I just copy and pasted the picture of it here so you guys know what it looks like and know if you have the correct one. So this again is English 101. It's going to be a synchronous online class. This means that we are going to meet in the normal class times that we normally would have if we were in the classroom from 12:30 to 1:45, but it's going to be all online and all on Google Meets. So I said earlier, I really hope that we can make this class very similar, not 100% similar, but try to be similar with a lot of in-class discussion, a lot of talking, a lot of ideas. It's not all going to be just me lecturing. There will be parts where I am talking to the class, but there are going to be a lot of parts where I have a prompt, and we do have like a Blackboard, maybe a journal prompt and everything to kind of help us facilitate discussion moving forward. This is an English class. There will be a lot of reading and be a lot of writing. So that's just going to happen. This is my email. If anybody needs to reach me, that's the best place to do so. I check my email pretty frequently. I'm not on it 24/7, but fairly frequently. So if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. And in addition, right now, I can't see the chat, but if you do have any questions as I'm talking, feel free to leave those in there, and I'll get back to those questions when I come back. This is the textbook you'll need, Bedford Guide to College Writing. This is what it looks like. So if you've been to the bookstore, perhaps you have this already. I suggest getting it relatively soon. We'll need a reading from a chapter there starting next week. So if you haven't done it, they might have, if you can't get to campus, they might have online options at the bookstore. I'm not 100% sure, but I would check with the bookstore to do that. And on the actual copy of the syllabus you would download, it's smaller font. So this would be the first page. I've created an index here to make it easier for everybody to look through the syllabus. So if you come back at a later date and you have a question, and this hopefully will make it easier to find. For example, if you're saying you're trying to turn in your essay and you can't do so, you would say, how should I submit my essays? And participation, attendance, etiquette, plagiarism, all that stuff. So if you don't want to look through the whole syllabus and you're wondering where something is, you just go to the index, look to where you want to find it, and then go to that page. And everything's numbered up here, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. Course description and goals. English 101, again, we're going to write a lot. So we're going to write 3 essays overall and some other smaller assignments. We're going to use the writing process, so plan, compose, revise, edit, and proofread. So we're going to have a peer review for each essay to kind of help teach that, help learn that. We'll be online. I'll use Google Docs for that. I've used it online for other online classes before, so it shouldn't be too bad. But kind of practicing the idea that not just writing an essay one draft and then turning it in, really practicing that writing process and revising as we go along. And then we're going to use MLA format too. We're going to look at other essays as well. I've been teaching for 6 years overall, 4 years at Jeffco. So I have a lot of example essays from the past, and so we'll look at some of those essays. We'll analyze, we'll think critically about a lot. That's going to be a huge priority for this class is analysis and critical thinking. And then, of course, we're going to do research. The first essay won't require research, but the second and third will. So we'll practice MLA format. We'll actually start that on Thursday for anybody who hasn't used MLA format before. Maybe it's been a long time. And also just a general review of it. Coursework, again, I said we'll have 3 major essays. They will be the largest part of your grade. They will go from shortest to longest and also worth the least amount of points to the most amount of points. So the first paper will be shorter and worth the least. And then as you go along the semester, you'll be writing more and it'll be worth more. My goal is that, and my hope is that if you're learning more, you're also can be graded more because you've learned more skills. Okay. You also will complete 6 complex book entries. These are assignments that most, if not all of you, have probably not heard of before. I will have an assignment sheet that I will talk about more on Thursday. And we'll talk about that because you'll have to do some next week. They're due next week. But essentially what we're going to do, there will be a reading assigned, accessible for you to read before class starts. You will cite the source in MLA format, again, practicing that citation, those citation skills. You will find one quote and engage with it and write at least a paragraph about it. And then you will analyze the audience and purpose of the piece. And by audience, I mean the intended reader, somebody who might be the writer might have intended to read that essay. And also the purpose, meaning the whole point of the essay. Why does it matter to that audience? And the reason we're doing that is because although the essays will matter in terms of a writer, you'll need to be conscious of the answer to those 2 questions in your own essay. So we're going to be practicing them a little bit more in your complex book entries and the essays that we're currently going to be reading. So I'll talk about that more on Thursday, but each one will be due the minute before class starts. So they will be due at 12:29 p.m. So class starts at 12:30. 12:29 p.m. is when they're due. So right before class, they shouldn't be done as class is going on, but before class starts. We'll have some inventions, which are smaller assignments that are meant to go with the larger essays to help kind of facilitate and learn some of those skills that are required for those larger projects. We'll do annotated bibliography for essay 3, which is all about research. And then the portfolio at the end of the semester, which will be in place of like a final test. We won't take tests in here. We'll be reading and writing a lot. So this portfolio will be meant to reflect over the whole semester, but also you'll have the opportunity to revise some essays that you've written this semester. I don't advise to just put everything off until the portfolio's due. Do the work. This will only be a revision, and I won't accept it as like the first submission of the essay, so only something that's been revised and submitted earlier. But this is meant to be a do-over if you just didn't do as well as you wanted to. You worked really hard. It just didn't come out the end result that you wanted, and you get another chance. And so that's kind of another chance just for the formal essays, not for anything else. Again, we'll do peer review, as I said earlier. We use this for Google Docs, and I'll have a whole day where I talk more about peer review, but you'll need to send your essay in to me before that class period, and you'll need to, I'll put everybody into groups, and then I'll have kind of a question sheet that can guide you into the process. You know what questions to ask for the other people you're reading. We might break out into breakup groups, talk about it a little bit more. And that time comes, and the peer reviews will always be kind of right before that essay is due, and we'll also do one-on-one conferences. So I'll kind of schedule those later, but we'll do one-on-one conferences in addition to peer review for each paper. Blackboard, I'm going to go on the Blackboard again to show you everything here. So I've changed a lot of this, what I've done in the past, just because of this new format that we're doing. I've already talked about syllabus. If you missed what I said earlier, again, you can kind of look at the syllabus down here and download it yourself. I have this tab here that says Google Meet Classroom Access Information, which means you can, this link here, you're in the class, so this means you all found it either here or through the invite I sent yesterday. So if you this will be the same link for all of the classes. So I'm just having it as a running link. It's never going to change unless the link somehow breaks, and then I'll change it and replace it with here. But if you lose the email of the invite I sent you on Monday, it's always going to stay here on this sheet. I've also have this not extension for Google Meet. It's not required that you do it, but it's really cool if you use it as an attachment on Chrome. It's called a Chrome extension. You can kind of raise your hand. So if I'm talking and you want to say something, you can raise your hand and I can pause and let you talk for however long you need. It's really hard for me to see if anybody has a question. So that would be really helpful. Only people who have it attached to their Chrome would be able to see that somebody's hand was raised. So you can do that as well. I have complex book entries here. You'll have 6 of them. So I have them all here ready to go for when they're due. Every single one of these you can see on the front here when it's due and what the essay you need to read is going to be called. So for example, this one's due Tuesday, August 25th by 12:29 p.m. That's next Tuesday. And this is the Bedford Guide for College Writers. So it's a textbook chapter 4, Recalling an Experience. And then I have down here the requirements, which are also on the assignment sheet, which I also just talked about. But then every one of these I have the same one, Tuesday, August 27th, September 1st. I actually think this is supposed to be a Thursday, not a Tuesday, so I'll change that in a bit. But all of them have the due dates down here. You can kind of see when they're due and what the reading is for. If it's not in the textbook, the reading will be on the in-class readings tab. And you can see here, this one, American Dreams, found under the readings tab. And so you can kind of look here, but if it's in the textbook, it won't be up there. If it's not in the textbook, it will be. And so if you do that, you can just click here, and they're all journal entries. And this just means that your classmates won't be able to see what you write, but I will. And so you hit create journal entry, and then you would put your writing in that text box there. And so that's how you would submit your assignment. And then assigned readings, I actually think somehow when I put assigned readings up here, they didn't come over. So I have assigned readings, and I meant to put them up here, but for some reason they're not. That will be really easy for me to put up. They're on the other Blackboard shelf for my other class, so I'll just copy them over. Luckily, we don't need them right now, but they will be here. I'll do that when this class is over, so it won't be that big of a deal. And then I'll do, so they'll be here. They should be there. For some reason they didn't copy over. And then assignments. These are anything you would assign other than complex book entries and in-class activities. So this is the complex book entry assignment sheet, which I'll talk about more on Thursday. But also in general, like essay number 1, all of the major assignments that aren't complex book entries will be here. So I have assignments. That's just going to be that. If something's homework, you'll have to turn that in there. And I have the assignment sheets down here as well, and I'll go over them on specific days. So like next Tuesday, I'm going to go over this in number 1. In-class readings and in-class activities are things that we're doing in this class between 12:30 and 1:45. So I have you read something. It's going to be like, if I say a short document, it's just we're going to read this together, or read it, take 5-10 minutes to read it by yourself. I'll have it uploaded here. Of course, I don't have anything uploaded right now because we're not reading anything today, but you would normally if I had something. So assigned readings is going to be a reading that you have to read outside of class. In-class readings is something we're reading in class. So that's just the big difference. In-class activities, I have some things because I don't know if I'm going to, I think we actually might have time to do 1 or 2 of these. But these are in-class activities. I might say, click on this, and we're going to use this as a, a journal entry. Jeffco is also, they're also using Blackboard submissions as a way to determine attendance. And so if we don't find something to do that week, these activities are going to be how you show that you've been attending the class. That's not my policy. I'll go over that in a second. That's how Jeffco is determining that. That's important for financial aid and all that other stuff. And then recordings of class. So the recording that, of course, I'm doing right now, or any other recordings I do, they'll be posted here. I'm not going to record every class, and I'm not going to record everything of every class. I'm only going to record something if I'm lecturing. or if it's something that I'm just talking to you for, kind of like this. But if it's a discussion or in-class writing, I'm not going to be recording that. I don't think anybody wants to sit here and just watch us wait for 10 minutes while we write. That won't be helpful. In addition, I'll also put grades on Blackboard as the semester goes along. So I have everything already done. I'll talk about that in a minute when I go to the syllabus. But anytime, any point, you should be able to go on Blackboard and look at what grades you have. I tend to grade everything fairly quickly, but I ask everybody to give me at least 2 weeks to grade everything. Typically, it doesn't take me that long. Sometimes it might take me longer if just there's a lot bombarded at me at one time. I am teaching 6 classes this semester, so between 3 colleges, so it'll be a lot. But I do tend to grade as soon as I possibly can, but just please don't email me the day after you submit something and wonder where it is. Oh, I'm definitely going to get to it, just maybe the day after you submit it. So I'm going to come back here to, if I can, to the sheet. Does anybody have any questions about Blackboard at all, or the syllabus, or anything I've talked about so far? Okay, so it doesn't look like anybody has that, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the syllabus here. If you do have one of the questions, just go and put it in the chat. So email, please check your email on a regular basis. I send an email to the whole class on Saturday and one again on Monday, just to kind of show, invite you to the class and kind of give a rough idea what we will be doing today. But I mean, we're not gonna have snow days or anything because this is all online. However, if I have to change a due date, if something changes in the class, sometimes I just remind you of something. Especially if I do that at all, it's in the beginning of the class when we're still trying to get accumulated with the class at all. But I ask you all, and I require on the syllabus that you all check your email at least once every weekday. If I send an email, especially during the week, I'm assuming that you have read it and you know the information. But generally things, I would be reminding you of a deadline. There's been tons of times where I've emailed a class 1 or 2 times to remind them of something, and then a few people don't turn in and they say, oh, I forgot, but I emailed to remind everybody. So check your email on a regular basis. I will always email by your Jeffco. In addition, when you email me, if you have a question, please email me that. Always use your Jeffco email as well. Please don't use your personal Gmail. Submit work, I already talked about that. You're going to submit it on Blackboard. I used to have this as email, but now everything's online. Blackboard's just a little bit easier to just kind of see everything in one place. Participation, there will be times, I talked about earlier, submitting journal entries in the class, those in-class activities. While Blackboard was going to be, or Jeffco is going to use those Blackboard submissions as attendance, I'm going to use them as participation. So things that you participate in the class. So not only if you submit them, but also that discussion afterwards. So if you, unmuting yourself, talking, or putting something in the chat, discussing and actually conversing about something. Those 2 things are going to be participation because we're going to be doing them quite a bit. Most of the class is not going to be me just talking to you. It's going to be a discussion. I talked about Google Meet earlier, but if you came in a little bit late or you forgot, again, I said, please mute your computer if you're not talking. And also just if you have your video share, just have some type of clothes on. Again, I don't care if it's pajamas, just something to have on. And that's about it for that. And also be polite to each other. I mean, no cuss words or anything in there. If you know somebody or don't know somebody, please don't call each other names. Just be nice to each other. It's about it. Attendance policy. I'm basing this kind of off of Jeffco's normal policy. So these classes are required. When I say these classes, the Google Meet sessions that we're in right now. So I have here, if you fail to begin the class altogether, congratulations. If you're in the session, you have already started the class. So that's good. If you cease participation for at least 2 consecutive weeks, and this means not only necessarily have you not come to class for 2 weeks, but maybe if you haven't logged on the Blackboard, or you haven't emailed me, you haven't submitted an assignment, you haven't done anything at all for 2 weeks, or if you miss more than 4 or 5 classes, that could mean potentially me withdrawing you from the class. And I say that because, you know, a lot of what we're going to do, again, it's not just stuff you can just read from a textbook and memorize. There aren't going to be any text. In a way, what we're going to be doing is a little bit more difficult, just because it's not simply memorization. It's a lot of critical thinking. It's a lot of analysis. That's what the discussions I'm hoping will help everybody learn and facilitate. But you know, you start the class, but if you you know, and so if you just send me an email if you're sick, or you're having a hard time, or something went wrong, you don't have to tell me the whole story, but just email me and, you know, give me a little bit of idea of what's going on, but then I'll know you're still intending to be in the class. But if I don't hear anything for 2 weeks, or if you've missed 5 classes altogether, that could mean withdrawing from the class. In addition, attending a class is defined as logging into Google Meets meeting within 15 minutes of the class. So I think everybody did that today. I am taking attendance. I have like a attachment that takes the attendance for me, so it kind of tracks the attendance for when people are leaving and when people are joining. So I don't necessarily have to look at everybody all the time. That would make me not able to actually teach the class. But I have the 15 minutes, and it's just in case you're having trouble logging on, your internet's not working, your computer needed a last-minute update, which my computer loves to do. You're not able to log on right at 12:30 and have that 15-minute wiggle room. You're going to miss something, but you know, I'd rather you come late than not come at all. So please, yeah, that 15 minutes is for attendance. Please come within us, like between 12 and 12:45, but ideally, please come at 12:30 if your internet's not working and your computer's working well. Plagiarism, please don't do it. Plagiarism essentially just means if you're cheating or copying somebody's work without saying where it came from. And so this is where citations, MLA format is really important. If you are not only quoting somebody else, but if you are summarizing their ideas or paraphrasing their words, you need to be able to say where it came from. So if I catch anybody plagiarizing, the best case scenario, and I mean the best case scenario, will be a failure of that assignment. And we have assignments that are anywhere from 25 points to 250 points, and it applies to all of them. So if you, most of the time when I have students, there have been a few exceptions, but most of the cases where I caught somebody plagiarizing, it's on the last paper, which is worth 25% of their grade. And if somebody doesn't have like an A or a B at that point, that basically means that they're failing the class. So if I catch somebody plagiarizing a second time, that will mean that I will alert the college, and that will potentially mean even worse problems, such as failure of the class in general, or potentially expulsion if that person has plagiarized in other classes as well. But I have never had to go that far in any of my classes in the past 6 years, but I have failed assignments because of plagiarism. So if you have a question about MLA format, we will be working with that all semester. Let me know. I will be happy to help anybody who doesn't know if they're doing it correctly. And so we'll be working on all semester. But the points, every whole class is worth 1,000 points, not 100,000 points, just 1,000 points. So, you know, everything here is worth a percentage. So 50 points is worth 5% of your grade. The complex book entries are worth 25 points each. So there's 6 of them, which is 150 points altogether. So if you miss one for whatever reason, it's not the end of the world. I would prefer doing them, but if you miss all 6, that will be 15% of your grade, which is not great. So make sure you're doing those. The essay 1, 100 points, essay 2, 200 points, and then those inventions, along with participation in the portfolio, worth 50 points, and that last essay is worth more. And again, it's worth more at the end because you're learning more, and hopefully you kind of learn from all these assignments throughout and applying those skills to that last paper. And the grade breakdown is pretty typical. Kind of 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, and so on and so forth. And these other are really important disability support services. If you have anything that I need to make accommodations for you, be more than welcome to do it. Just please email me, ideally within the first week of class. And I can help anybody with any issues that need to be taken care of or need for me to make adjustments for. Just let me know. There's a writing lab. I don't actually think it's open right now for some reason, but there are places that for math and science help. But I think I saw an email recently that said the writing lab for Hillsborough might be closed, but I think it might be open in Arnold. But there is always going to be an online writing lab. It's called the OWL. And that's basically for you to send in electronically an essay, and then everybody who works on the OWL or the writing lab is going to be an English teacher at the college. And so these are people who do have master's degrees and are trained in teaching writing themselves and teach their own classes. So they're really helpful. They're not going to be able to do everything for you, but usually if you say, hey, I need help with MLA format, they could probably help you with like 1 or 2, potentially 3 different skills, but they're not going to give you a full commentary. I am very happy to read anybody's essays if you email me in advance, but please make sure you email me at least a week before that essay is due, so I not only have time to read it, but you all have time to revise according to my commentary as well. So just making sure that I'm happy to help anybody if you need, again, to make an appointment and talk to me about a paper or an assignment that you're doing. I'm very happy to help anybody outside of this 1 hour and 15-minute class period. But it's just make an appointment with me. We'll work between both of our schedules and we'll see what works out in terms of time. Outside of class, academically related activities, that's just saying that you should be also working on work outside of the class. It's not just these 2.5 hours a week, but it's the whole, class in general. So you should be working, reading, doing assignments outside of this class time. I have a note here. It says, by remaining this section of English 101, you are indicating to me that you have read, will adhere to, and you understand these policies I've listed here. Everything before this point is a policy. It's kind of a contract between me and you, and it will remain for the rest of the semester. That will not change. The schedule below it might. So if we're a little bit behind or moving too fast in a class that I thought, I might change a due date. I'm never going to make something push it up. The only times I will ever change a due date is move it back, but I typically don't do that. But this semester is an anomaly. I have no idea how it's going to go. This is only my 3rd class that I'm doing this Google Meet form for. First 2 were this morning. So we're going to see how it's going. We'll change and adjust as needed. If something's not work, I'll change it, but I won't change the policies. I'll just change the schedule. So this is the schedule down here below at the end of it. If you notice, I only have up until the first essay is due on September 16th. And for this reason, it's because if I do end up changing something, you're not overwhelmed and have to change due dates for the whole semester. It will only be for that first part. I do have it ready. I do have a whole course schedule ready to go. So a few weeks before this essay is due, I will provide the new updated schedule for the next essay. But if I have to change a bunch of due dates, I don't want everybody to feel like the whole semester is changing. That's just for no reason. This schedule is going to be really important for everybody to know due dates. So you should, if you have a calendar by you, you should put the due dates in the calendar. If you have like a calendar on your phone, I like to put calendars on my phone for due dates because I don't really have a great memory and I forget things all the time. Or you can print this off, put it, in a notebook or something so you have it near you. You don't have to necessarily print out the whole schedule, just the schedule or the whole syllabus, but just the schedule. What's important about this is that all of these due dates, if it's by this date, so Tuesday, August 25th, that means that it's due on that day, not the next day, the Wednesday or Thursday. So this is due Tuesday, August 25th. It's not homework for another day. So you can see here, Complete book entry number 1 due by 12:29 p.m. for a BG. And if I have BG, that means Bedford Guide to College Writing. So that's your textbook. So if anytime I cite BG, that's the textbook. If it doesn't say it, that means it's on Blackboard or another reading tab. That's basically it. And so I have, I'll have which number it is, the date and time, and then I'll have the essay next to it. So if you're ever forgetting what's due on that day, you should come to the syllabus and it'll say. If I have something that's in-class reading, I'll say that down here, and I'll list a few other things that we're doing. What we do during that class period might change, but this is what I'm intending to do right now. kind of help you for that class. And then for the first paper, everything we're doing between the time I assign a paper and the time we turn it in is going to be helpful for that paper and in general. And then we're doing one-on-one conferences, and I'll schedule those. They'll probably be 10-minute conferences. I'll probably have you guys, send me a rough draft before, because those 10 minutes will go really fast. But we'll kind of see, again, kind of how it's going to work before that. And that will be literally just you and me one-on-one conferences, just to talk about your paper. Okay, so that's kind of, I'm not done completely. That's everything about the syllabus. Does anybody have any questions about the syllabus or Blackboard or anything? Okay, so we're not done yet, but I am going to stop recording because I'm going to stop lecturing.